There were times when Ayla still doubted whether she was dreaming. Cloud not only saved her from being discovered eavesdropping on Byron's conversation, but also revealed that he had long suspected her but had kept silent. Since that day, Cloud had acted as if nothing had happened between them, so even though he knew that vivid memory wasn't a dream, he sometimes wondered if it had been. The next day, Laura left for the capital with a group of unknown marchionesses, each to infiltrate the Duke's house. And Ayla and the others were still sleeping outside. They seemed to be on a long journey towards some destination. Her heart was pounding as she remembered the time she was almost caught eavesdropping on someone who seemed to be the Marquis, but she still felt a pang of regret for not being able to find out his name. Luckily, Cloud called him Your Grace, so his identity was clearly known. There were not many marquises in this palace empire, so if he returned to his parents and secretly asked about them, he would be able to find out their names. "Miss, the master is looking for you." Capella, who was tending to Ayla in place of her daughter, who had gone to the capital, called out to her in a low voice. Just as he was about to get into his sleeping bag, Ayla got up and walked out of the tent. It was no small feat for Byron to look for her in the dead of night. When she came out, Cloud was waiting for her, apparently ready to take her to Byron's tent. Ayla followed him, observing his profile. His blunt face remained impenetrable, preventing him from discerning his thoughts. "Do you know what's happening?" he asked in a low voice. I didn't expect an answer. I was just waiting for a clue. But unexpectedly, Cloud replied, "It won't be bad news for you, young lady." Although the answer was enigmatic, it couldn't be bad news. At that moment, there could only be one good news for her: returning home. A small hope rose in Ayla's heart, but she tried to push it away. One of the reasons was that she didn't want to show Cloud that she was happy, but above all, she hoped that things wouldn't go as planned and that she wouldn't be disappointed. The higher the expectations, the greater the disappointment. "I still don't fully trust you." "Yes, miss. I'm sorry." The conversation he had with Cloud while they were heading to Byron's store revealed to him that what happened that night was not a dream, but reality. Although they had not spoken openly about what had happened, it was the first time they had hinted, however vaguely, that something was changing in their relationship. And, when he arrived in front of Byron, he could hear the good news he had been waiting for. "Come closer, my daughter." As she knelt before him at Byron's gesture, he stroked her hair and opened his mouth. "Did I ever tell you why this father walks around like a sinner?" At that question, Ayla had to search her memory for a moment. Byron's story had been told countless times. It was the story of an old friend, or rather, a traitor, who usurped his position and gave it to another, framing him for a crime he did not commit and turning him into a criminal. Although the story was a distorted version, very different from the truth. "You didn't say it exactly, but you said there was a traitor, someone who had to get revenge." "Yes, it's true. My daughter, I think it's time. It's time for you to avenge your father." At Byron's words, Ayla tried to suppress the joy that filled her chest and asked, "What should I do, father? He has a lost daughter. I think you should dress up as that daughter and enter her house. And condemn that man in the name of his father." At last. How long had he waited for these words? Since returning to his 12-year-old body, he had endured countless sickening moments, waiting for this moment. In his previous life, he was only 16 years old when he was finally sent to the Duke's house. Now, he wasn't even 14. He would soon be 14 in the fall, but it was still 2 years younger. And that's because it hadn't even been a year since he returned to the past. "Yes, father. If you want it, I'll do it right now." His voice was filled with a joy that he couldn't hide, no matter how hard he tried. But Byron didn't seem surprised. She seemed to interpret her joy as an opportunity to earn the approval of her father, who loved her so much. "Yes, it's a good position. But not now. I have some preparations to make. And he began to explain what he had to prepare. The babysitter who took Ayla hailing Weishafen, the justification that had eluded her for so long, was finally revealed. This was the work of creating that justification. It's just like my previous life. Byron's life of Ayla Weishafen was no different from his past life. That meant that the note he had received from Winfred would soon be used to save those who comforted her. So, starting tomorrow, you can stay there. You should remember what life is like there. This way, they won't suspect you. Yes, father. Now that she felt like she had heard everything, Ayla slowly prepared to get up. He wanted to escape Byron's clutches as soon as possible. But Byron didn't seem to have any intention of letting her go yet. Oh, and by the way, there's something I need you to do before you kill your father's enemy. What is that, father? What should I do first? She tried to figure out what it was, but nothing came to mind, so Ayla waited for Byron's response. There will be a newborn baby in that house. First, kill him. He is so weak that he can't even control his own body. It will be as easy as breathing for you. And in response to the answer, Ayla forgot to control her expression for a moment and looked at Byron. Oh really? What did a newborn baby do that makes you want to kill it when it's only a few months old? And that, too, with nothing less than his own hands. He had only heard the story of his birth from Winfred, and had never met his younger brother in person. He had to kill him with his own hands. He thought he had already seen the full extent of Byron's evil. I thought that nothing could be more cruel or ruthless. But even evil gods tend to show at least a sliver of mercy to the young and weak. Byron, it seemed, was the worst kind of human being, lacking even the slightest ethical conscience. Why don't you answer, daughter? And he asked in a sharp voice if he could endure even that moment of hesitation. The child is innocent. Ayla barely managed to swallow the words that threatened to spill out of her mouth. Even if Roderick was the world's greatest villain, as Byron claimed, what sin did Noah commit to deserve death? If my father wants, I will follow him. He had no choice but to say it at the end. Even if it was just a thoughtless comment, and she had no intention of killing Noah, just saying it made her miserable. It was that disturbing feeling of committing a terrible sin that a human being should never commit. Yes, she is my daughter. Byron finally caressed her cheek with the back of his hand. The sticky texture was unpleasant to him. Then let's go back to rest. You'll be busy starting tomorrow. Yes, father. It was a liberation. Ayla bit her lip hard to hide her trembling anger. He bit down so hard he felt a cold tingle. Still, it was fortunate that he was able to come to his senses and respond, even if it was late. If she hadn't heard the news of Noah's birth from Winfred and only found out about his existence now, she was sure she would still be stunned. Cloud, stay. Cloud tried to follow her out of the store, but Byron stopped him. Ayla was so angry that she felt like crying. I wish I could sit down and cry my eyes out. But there were too many eyes watching her nearby. Capella, sharing the same tent, would surely be surprised if he saw even a tear stain on her face. Ayla held back her tears until she lay down in her sleeping bag and tried to sleep. How many emotions had I swallowed and repressed over the past year? Patience wasn't so difficult for her. No, actually, it was too difficult. She wanted to cry alone, in a place where there was no one, in a place where she didn't have to worry about anyone. Maybe he just wanted to cry in his mother's arms. As a child, she must have buried her face in her mother's chest and burst into tears, but, unfortunately, she did not remember such a scene. Still, Ayla missed his hugs so much. He prayed that time would pass quickly as he fell asleep. With each passing day, the time to return to her parents grew closer, and that comforted her.